Welcome to Live Daf, your online Daf Yomi Shir.
Shalom Aleichem and welcome back to today's Daf Hayomi Nedarim Pei Gimel. We are holding on Pei Beis Amud Beis, 2 lines from the bottom of the Amud. We're right in the midst of an interesting discussion. Suppose an Isha makes a neder, part of which is labeled as Inui Nefesh. It deprives her. It inconveniences her, in which case husband has the ability to apply hafara. The other aspect of the neder does not fall under that category. It's not labeled Inui Nefesh. What happens now? We had a machlokes. Shmuel says all or nothing. Once the Torah gives the husband the ability to do hafara, the entire neder becomes batal, even the part of the neder which does not constitute Inui Nefesh. Rabbi Yehuda disagrees. He says it's not about the entire neder being considered one pertaining to hafara. Rather, when the Torah says Isha yifirenu, her husband can apply hafara to it indicating singular, the entire thing, it means whatever is within his ability to do hafara. Anything which is considered Inui Nefesh should become nullified by his hafara. But the other part which is not Inui Nefesh remains intact. So Yifirenu means he must do hafara to everything which is considered Inui Nefesh. He can't sort of split that into two. But something which is beyond his control, something which is not Inui Nefesh, that stays intact even if it was packaged together as one with the Inui Nefesh aspect. So again, according to Rabbi Yehuda, the hafara only applies to the element of Inui Nefesh pertaining in this neder, but the rest of the neder remains standing. Here comes two kashas. Esvei Rav Asi had a kasha number 1 on Rabbi Yehuda. A brayso says like this: Ha'isha shenadar b'nazir. A wife accepted upon herself the Nazirus experience. No wine, no grapes, no becoming tummy to a mace. And she neglected her commitment. And she drank wine freely. She got involved with mason, she became tummy. She receives malchus because she violated the lavim associated with keeping the halachos of Nazir. What about Hefer lo balo? V'lo yada. Shehefer lo. Husband got wind of her commitment. He applied the hafara without her knowledge. Hefer lo balo. V'lo yada. Shehefer lo. So, unbeknownst to her, she was really freed from her commitment because the husband has the ability to cancel this type of Nazirus, this type of neder, right? Nazirus is a form of neder. So she didn't know about this hafara. And she got engaged in all these things. She was involved in wine and mason. In this case, she's lucky. She's absolved of malchus, but as you all know, Rashi in Chumash brings this, right? V'Hashem yislach lo, beginning of Matos. She is in need of atonement because, although technically she did not violate any Isser, because husband uprooted the neder, uprooted the Nazir's commitment that she had made, but in her mind she was violating because she was unaware of the fact that he took away the Nazir's. She's thinking, I'm a Nazir and I'm drinking wine regardless. That's bad. She needs kapara. But malchus, we don't apply because technically she was no longer a Nazir because of her husband's hafara. That's the brayso. Asks Rab Asi on Rabbi Yehuda. Now, let's assume your approach. If you say, whenever we have a neder which contains two elements, one is considered Inui Nefesh, the other one is not, and husband applies hafara, how does that hafara impact the neder? Mefer lemis ano. The hafara only applies to that aspect, which is considered inui, which is considered deprivation, like keeping away from wine. Quite a difficult task. Quite an inui nefesh. That hafara can take away. But the hafara cannot affect the aspect of the neder which is not misana, which does not constitute deprivation. Why do we say that the husband's hafara would totally destroy the Nazirus? Dilma min yain islot saro. Perhaps her commitment to abstain from wine, that element of the Nazirus, heiferlo, the hafara takes that away. But there are other aspects. What about grapes, pits, skins of grapes? Min chartzin min zag, the pits and the skins of the grapes. Grape-related restrictions. You can manage without grapes. You can't manage without wine, but you can manage without grapes. Perhaps the hafara will not remove that chiyuv, that isra. Because keeping away from some pits and skins, that's not so terrible. That's not major tsar. In which case, that element of the nazir will stay in place, and if she goes and she violates that, she gets malchus. Why does the Mishnah, the Brisa here, tell us otherwise? Why does the Brisa tell us the husband's hafara cancels the entire nazir commitment? Amar Rav Yosef, well, nazir is different. Ein nazirus l'chatzoin. Nazirus is not something that you initiate. It's different than your typical neder, which you sort of, concoct, you invent. I'm keeping away from this, from that, from the other thing. Nazirus is sort of a product off the shelf. It's a prepackaged item. When you commit to being a nazir, there's no such a thing as, well, I'll be a nazir for this and not for that. The Torah tells you how a nazir conducts his life. No wine, no grapes, no pits, no skins, no mason. And therefore, as the Ran explains, when the Torah says a husband, Yifi Renu will be made for her neder, when it comes to Nazirus, it means the entire thing. You can't just split the neder into two. One is two loaves of bread like we had yesterday. One is interesting, one is not interesting. One is, high quality, one doesn't interest. Then we could sort of split it. The hafara takes one and leaves the other one in place. But Nazirus, it's either all or nothing. So apparently over here it's all. He'll take away the entire nazir. And therefore the Brisa says, she will not get malchus upon consuming either wine or grapes. Okay, so that's an answer to the question. Nazirus is different. Now the Gemara will make a sort of a side point now, go off on a tangent, and then soon come back to our discussion and present another kasha, the second of the two kashas, on Rabbi Yehuda, who says he could sort of split a neder into two in terms of hafara. But first a side point regarding the choice of words used by Rav Yosef pertaining to Nazirus. He said, Ein Nazirus l'chatzon. You can't split the Nazirus commitment into two. I'm going to keep the wine and violate the grape. You can't do that. Amalei Abaye. But it would sound from your words, says Abaye, you can't split the Nazirus experience, but you can perhaps split the time. Typically, Nazirus extends for 30 days. You can have sort of a halfway Nazirus, a 15-day Nazirus. Can you do that? Amalei Abaye, ha-karban l'chatzi Nazirus ika. The fact that you chose to say ein Nazirus l'chatzoin instead of just saying, there's no halves. Ein chatzoin. There's no halves when it comes to Nazirus, as the Ran explains. You should have said that. The fact that you said ein Nazirus l'chatzoin sounds more like you can't split the product into two. But suppose I keep the entire, product. No wine, no grapes, no skins, no pits, no mason. But I choose to keep it only for, half the prescribed, half the standard, cycle. Instead of 30 days, only 15 days. It would work. That's what it sounds like from what you're saying. Amalei Abaye, ha-karban. You would be mechayev to bring a carbon. You would have to, keep the whole, go through the whole carbon process at the culmination of your 15-day Nazirus. L'chatzi Nazirus ika, you can have that even by fulfilling only half the time of Nazirus. That's hard to believe, and therefore Abaye says no. By the way, how can that happen? So the Ranak says, let's say the husband would come, halfway through the Nazirus and say it's mufar after 15 days. Then it's sort of a 15-day Nazirus that she kept. Would you bring karbanos now? It would sound from what you're saying, yes, says Abaye. No, Abaye disagrees. It's hard to believe you can do that. For the same reason as mentioned earlier, it's a package. There are the elements of the Nazirus, and there's the prescribed period, the 30-day Nazirus, no less. Ela Abaye ein Naziris l'chatzoin, just like you can't commit half the elements of Naziris, it's one unit. Ve'en korban l'chatzoin, likewise. Let's say you only keep, Naziris for 15 days instead of 30, you will not bring a korban. And the Gemara will ask on that now. Meisvei have a kasha. You say you can't bring a korban for keeping only half the month. Ha'isha shenodar ben nazar. An isha, a wife, committed to being a nazar, and she became tummy. Now, before we begin, let's remember, a regular nazar who finishes, the 30-day Nazirus cycle, he will bring 3 karbanis, 3 animals. A chatas, an oila, and a shlamim. But let's say he becomes tamei, then he goes into a totally different system, a totally different track. He'll bring an asham, a behemoth for an asham, and 2 birds, one for oila, one for chatas. Okay, it's a different system when you're finished betahara, or you became tamei midway. This isha became tamei midway, which necessitates a korban asham, a behemoth, and 2 birds, oila, and a chatas. So what happens? Isha shenadar ben nazar, she became a nazar, and she became tamei. V'frisha behemta, she set aside a behemoth for an asham. Listen to this chiddush. She already has her behemoth, ready to go. And afterwards the husband steps in and does hafara. It's over. He says it's finished. Let go of the Naziris. I don't like it. It's over. What happens now? She can no longer bring the asham because he cut it off right there. He doesn't allow her. He doesn't allow her to complete the process. So what happens? Mevia chata soif, ve'ena mevia oila soif. So she brings the chata soif, that she does bring, but not the oila soif. Okay? So that's the halacha. Question. According to you, Rabbi Yehuda, according to you, Abai, who says if you only you only keep part of the Naziris, you will not bring any karbanis, right? So why is she bringing anything here? The fact is, the husband stepped in, and before she got a chance to complete her month, it's over, right? She became tummy. She did not do her 30 days. She became tummy. Husband steps in, knocks it off. It's a chatzi naziris, right? How could you bring any korban? Vi amris in korban chatzi naziris. If according to you, Abaye, unless you complete the full 30-day experience, there are no karbanis. Amay mevi a chata soif. Why does this Isha bring a chata soif? Apparently, you will bring a korban even without completing that 30-day experience. That's the kasha Abai. The Gemara responds, Ve'elamai. So what do you mean to say? What are you going to prove from here? That yesh korban nechatzi naziris? That we will bring a korban even on account of fulfillment of the partial naziris experience? If that's the case, then why doesn't she bring everything? Why only the chata soif? You see, when a standard nazir, a nazir tar, completes his process, he brings shalosh behemoths, right? Shalosh behemoths boil asui. He brings all 3 animals, chatos, oila v'shlamim. Likewise over here, when she became tummy. Okay, so she goes onto that track and she brings that, that set of karbanis. Like we explained, the asham behemoth, then the chatas sa'if, and the oila sa'if. Why are we only obligating a chata sa'if? So we're sort of in a dilemma. On the one hand, we see clearly we don't apply these standard karbanis. On the other hand, she does bring something. How do we explain this? Says the Gemara. Abaye is right. You finish only half the naziris, you don't bring the proper, the standard set of karbanis. So why then does she bring a chata soif? She should bring nothing. if she did not complete the process. The reason why she brings a Chatas Oif is because Chatas Oif is so different. We find elsewhere, Mishum the Chatas ala Safek. We find that you can bring even a Chatas Oif when you're not sure an Isha had a Safek, whether she gave birth or not, all kinds of halachis. Chatas Oif is sort of an easier carbon, which has a lower threshold, and doesn't require that much to obligate it, to necessitate it. You can even bring it under such sort of shaky circumstances. Interesting, comparison. But in any case, that's the Gemara's conclusion. Typically, you keep only half the Naziris, no karbanis. But Chatas Oif, that's different, that you bring even under these circumstances. Interesting teretz. Okay, let's go back to the focal point of our sukkah. Rabbi Yechanan's chiddush. Anisha makes a huge neder, which encompasses many aspects. For instance, Naziris, which involves abstaining from wine, from grape products, from tumas meis. Rabbi Yechanan tells us, be careful, when you do hafara, husband can only cut away those aspects which are really inyan nefesh, but the remainder of that neder remains intact. Here comes another kash. Esfei, Rabasi, followed through with another kash, Rabbi Yechanan. A similar case that we just mentioned. Ha'isha shenadr benazir. Anisha made a neder to be a nazir. V'nitmes, and she became tummy. After which her husband did hafara and sort of cancelled it midway. Mevia chatas oif, ve'ein mevia oilas oif. Okay, so she brings the chatas oif, as we just explained, but not the oilas oif. Question: what happened here? She became tummy, right? Ve'i amras meifel mis'ana, ve'ein meifel she'ein mis'ana. According to you, Rabbi Yechanan, when the Torah empowers a husband to do hafara on a neder which is classified as inyan nefesh, so only the aspect which causes her deprivation, the mis'ana aspect, can be affected by his hafara, but not the aspect of the neder which doesn't involve deprivation. Correct? If that's the case, Dilma, miyayin the islat Sarah heiferla. Perhaps the aspect of Isur Yain, the aspect of Naziris which obligates her to abstain from wine, which is considered Tsar, his hafara can affect that, can remove that part of the Naziris. But mitumas meis, the less Tsara, but keeping away from a meis, that's not annoying, that's not Tsar. So perhaps that husband cannot affect through his hafara. That part of the nether, that part of her Naziris commitment remains intact. Right? So why does the Brisa say that she'll only bring chatas oif? Because that's an exceptional carbon that is brought even under these circumstances. She's a full-fledged a nazir pertaining to a certain aspect of Naziris, pertaining to keeping away from tumah. Now everybody asks Akasha, well, what do you mean? Just a minute ago we said, Rabbi Yosef says you can't split the Naziris package into two. Well, here it's different. You know why? The Rishonim explain. The Ran explains. We never find a nazir who doesn't drink wine but will eat grape products. There's no such a thing. So you can't split that into two. But we do find when it comes to tumah, there are exceptions. In fact, as we're going to see, Be'ezus Hashem and Mesechas Nazir coming up soon, there's something called Naziris Shimshen, a certain brand of a nazir, which allows tumas meis. Okay? Just keep that in mind. There is a certain type of nazir which can become tummy. So that sort of can be split. We see it isn't really interconnected with the other aspects of Naziris. So tumah is not dependent upon Isur Yain, which perhaps allows for a split between the two. Keeping away from Yain, that's Tsar. That falls by the wayside because of husband's hafara. But tumas meis remains intact. There's no Tsar involved. Don't become tummy. Big deal. Answers the Gemara, no. Listen to this. Amri. The Bnei HaYeshiva responded, Tumas Meis Nami Isla Tzara, keeping away from Tumas Meis is also a Tsar experience. You know why? It's emotionally depriving. The Chsiv, as the Pasuk says, V'achayiten alibay. A living person should take this experience to heart. Which experience? Participation in a levaya, in a kvura. Take it to heart. V'tanya, Hoyer Rabbi Omer. As Rabbi used to explain. What does the Pasuk mean? That one who participates in a funeral, etc., should be mesim leiv, should take it to heart. The yispad yispedun lei, a person who involves himself in eulogizing other people, eventually he'll be repaid in kind. They'll do the same for him. Mida keneged mida. The yivkun yivkun lei, when he cries for others, they'll cry for him. The yikbar yikbarun lei, he involves himself in burying others. They'll do a chesed with him as well, and they'll bury him as well. And Isha doesn't want to keep to herself. She wants to participate in other people's experiences so that eventually, mida keneged mida, others will do the same for her. So keeping her away from the local funerals, that's deprivation, that's tsar. And that explains the Mishnah that we just learned, that an Isha became a Nazar, and husband steps in and does Afara, it cancels the entire package. The aspect which pertains to wine, which is certainly tsar, and likewise to masmeis, which, as just explained, is tsar as well. Therefore, it cuts off the neder, becomes totally cancelled. So bottom line is, Rabbi Yehuda says, when a neder encompasses two aspects, a part which is called Inin Nefesh, a part which isn't called Inin Nefesh, when husband does Afara, it only affects the Inin Nefesh aspect of that neder, but the other aspect remains intact. However, when it comes to Naziris, we don't split it. Ein Naziris l'chatzoin. And even the Tumah, part of the Naziris, is considered Inin Nefesh. We learned another interesting thing, that you cannot split the month into two, Ein Korban l'chatzoin, except when it comes to Chata Asov. Continues the Mishnah. Koinam shaninena lebrius. The Risha says, I'm making a neder from accepting any benefit from briyos, creatures, humanity. Einoi yochal lahafer. Husband cannot step in and do hafara. And the Mishnah continues, V'yichaylehi lehanois beleked shikha obepeah. Interesting point. Although she must keep away from, she can't accept gifts from anybody, but if she's poor, she can go ahead and access matnois aniyim, things which farmers, drop while they're harvesting, leket, shikha, which they, forget and leave behind, ulepeah, the portion of the field which is left aside for the poor people, those she can take. Why? What do you mean? I'm not supposed to take from others. The answer is, they're not giving it to her. The pasuk says, ta'azoy. Just leave it for the poor people. Abandon it. So when she walks over to the farmer's leket, she picks that up. She's not accepting a gift from him. It's not a personal gesture. He abandoned it for the aniyim. See, if the pasuk would say, nisina, give it to the poor person, then we would have a problem, because he's actually giving it to her and she can't accept from him. But pasuk says, tazev, just leave it alone. Farmer, abandon, let go, back off. So now when she comes and takes it, it's something personal she's accepting from him, and therefore it's mutter. Okay, on to a slightly different topic. A fellow gets up and says, even a man, not an isha, koinam, koihanim, levim, nenim li. I'm making a neder. Koihanim and levim cannot have enough from me. And he's a farmer. He's going to give truma and maser. He's going to give yitla al karchai. The halacha is, I can just force it. I can just take it from him. It's not up to you to keep the truma in your pocket. You owe it to the kohanim. But what if he specifies? He makes it personal. Kohanim elu, levim elu. I'm not allowing, these kohanim, these levim, to take from me. Kohanim elu, levim elu, nenim li, itlu achir. That doesn't allow them to take it. Others will take. The Torah says, you have to give truma to a kohen. Well, not to him. I'll give it to somebody else. That's fair. Now let's go back to the beginning of the Mishnah. A wife says, Noah, to me, coming from briyos, from humanity. Husband cannot step in, cannot do afara. Why? Alma efshar de metazna medilei. Apparently, the reason why husband cannot be made for is because she can accept from him. She can have mezainis from the husband. Why? Machlal de baal la machlal briyos. Because she made a neder against briyos. Humanity. Her husband is a different story. He's in a class of his own. He's not called Briyos. And therefore, this neder doesn't get in the way of their marriage. It's not considered any nefesh. It's it's not something which he can do hafara to. And of course, as the Ran points out, our Mishnah once again is Rabbi Yossi speaking, right? The whole parak is Rabbi Yossi. A limited form of deprivation, such as not being hana from the briyos, that doesn't qualify as eating nefesh. As long as the husband can still provide for her, she's good to go. Amos sefer. If that's the rationale behind this halacha, because husband is not called briyos, husband can still provide for her, and therefore husband can not do hafara. Amos sefer. Let's move on to the next line of the Mishnah, which says, the Mishnah continues, you should know she can still walk into a farm and take the leket shikho peya, which almost sounds like that's her only source of income. But she can't take from her husband. Here it sounds like husband is included in the neder. Ha'alma bal b'chlal. Briyosu. He's considered part of the briyos class of people, in which case her only recourse is leket shikho peya. We seem to have a contradiction in the Mishnah. On one hand, you seem to say husband can still provide because he's not briyos. He's not included in the neder. Then you say her only source of income is leket shikho peya, random farmers. But her husband is not considered a provider because he's called briyos, included in the neder. We're going to have three tirutzim. Amar ula lo olam baal la b'chal briyosu. You were right, 100%. Husband is not classified as briyos. He's baal ki ishta ki gufa. They're one and the same entity. He's not called briyos. He's not a stranger, and he can still provide for her. He's not included in this neder. So that's one reason why he cannot do hafara, because he can still fully provide for her. She's not deprived. V'oid, another reason why he cannot do hafara, even if for some reason he falls short, he loses, he can't provide for her. She has another source of income. V'oid ein yachal hafer. Why? Local farms. As we explained, because although she can't accept directly from the farmer, but these are not considered a direct gift. That's Ula's approach. Once again, Baal is not briyos. Rav Amar no, lo elam Baal b'chlal briyosu. Truthfully speaking, husband is considered part of the briyos class of people. So why can't he do hafara? If he can't provide for her, she's deprived. She's left with no income. Uma tam ka amar. The Mishnah is actually giving us the reason for this halacha. The reason why there is no hafara applicable, because although she can't receive from her husband, who's considered briyos, but she can still walk onto the local farm and accept matnei saniyim. Rav Nachman Amar, here comes pshat number 3. Truthfully speaking, husband is not classified as briyos. He can still provide for her. That explains why there is no hafara in this case. The Mishnah is simply going on to another point as well. You should know that that after she gets divorced from him, she still has another source of income. After she divorces, in which case, she's ushered to take from anybody. Everybody is called briyos, and even her husband, let's call it her former husband actually, suddenly is now included in briyos as well. Because when we said husband is not briyos, that's only while she's married to him. Husband is, in a class of his own. But once she divorces, in which case husband now reverts to briyos. He's like anybody else out there. In which case she's left with no source of income, but she can still take from the farms. In which case she still has some source of income, and that explains why a husband cannot do hafara to begin with. because she'll always have some source of income, in which case hafara is not justified. Okay, let's just briefly recap today's daf. Rabbi Yechon's chiddush was hafara only applies to the aspect of the neder which constitutes inui, but not to the other aspect of that same neder. We asked a couple of kashas from Naziris. The Gemara tells us an interesting point. Naziris cannot be split into two, whether in terms of the actual Naziris experience, different elements of the Naziris experience, all tied together, wine, grapes, the timing of the Naziris as well cannot be split. You can't split, the 30 day into two. It's either all 30 or nothing. The Gemara says, refraining from tumas meis is also called etzar, because it's going to be midah connected midah. And finally, we had the Mishnah, which had two parts. We had the Isha was saying a neder against all briyos. Husband cannot do afara. We had three ways to explain it. Either husband can still provide for her, he's not called briyos, or husband cannot provide for her because he's called briyos, but she can still take lekha shikopeya. And then we had the next part of the Mishnah. A fellow makes a neder against all kohanim. Well, they can still take their share. It's not his to keep from them, but if he says these kohanim, then these will have to keep away, but he'll give it to others. And be yetze his mitzvah of truma and maser. All the best to you, lots of siyata d'shmaya, and hatzlacha rabba to all of us.